What's up? We're back. We're here in the corner to talk Clippers basketball. Welcome to the new show in LA. Yes, this is all Clippers, all the time, all Clippers talk. It's your boy TPJ of HoopsNBrews. Make sure you go, you hit that subscribe button right down there in the bottom of that link. Make sure if you're listening to this right now on iTunes or Spotify or whatever, you send that episode to your mother, to your daddy, to your friend, to whoever it is. Make sure you have them subscribe to the new show in LA. It's my brand new show talking all LA Clippers. And today for the first episode, what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually highlight and talk about the coach that is Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers this year, we got to cover him closely as a coach. Now, I'm going to be honest. In the past, I have had my reservations about Doc Rivers as a coach. You have even might have heard me say slanderous things about him when the Clippers kept losing in the second round. I remember I said that he, that they should call him can't get it done. That was until we started covering the team, and you got to really see why Doc is who Doc Rivers is. Doc Rivers is who Doc Rivers is because he's a great coach and because he empowers his players. He empowers his players and puts his players in the best positions for them to be able to succeed. Unfortunately, I personally believe Chris Paul on that old Clippers team was a cancer. And I think that his negative attitude, his older, braggadocious, I'm the leader, pointing my finger down at you while I'm literally the shortest one in the room, it really took a hold over the locker room. And you could see guys like Blake not really gravitating towards Chris Paul. And I don't think Chris Paul gravitated towards Blake Griffin either. And I think if you're Doc Rivers, that's kind of a situation where you're dealing with kind of like a LeBron Kyrie type of thing. But in that situation, Blake is really the LeBron of the team, obviously. And Chris Paul is really more of the Kyrie, but Chris Paul is the Kyrie that was a second round guy and that could never perform to me beyond the second round. That's why I call him CP2. So to focus on Doc Rivers, I specifically am going to show you guys some clips. You'll be able to hear some audio of us throughout the season when we talked to Doc Rivers while he was on the Clippers and while he was coaching the Clippers last year before, since y'all love to act like we just, are magically, mystically covering the LA Clippers because they got Kawhi and Paul George. So one of the clips that I'm going to play is going to be a clip from a loss that they had to the Atlanta Hawks, which Pavy covered that game. I'll also play a clip from him, talking, in the game that they won versus the Bulls. I'm also going to play a clip when he talked about, after they acquired Landry Shamet. And then I'm also going to talk about, Pat Bev, Danilo, now that he's gone, Lou Will, now that he's still here. And then I'm also going to talk about Doc Rivers' opening statement at the last game of the playoffs when they suffered the blowout loss to the Warriors, right? So first off, this clip that I'm going to play is Doc Rivers basically talking about how he feels as though the Clippers don't have the talent of KD. They don't have a KD. They don't have a Curry. They don't have any of these guys in this scheme to be able to get them to that point. So they have to play good as a team. So go ahead and check this clip out.
And I thought we showed up and thought we were just going to win. And I just go back to what I said before the year. We're just not good enough to do that. That's for teams that have the Currys and the Durants on it, or other, that's just not us. And they fought harder. They got every loose ball, every long rebound. I just thought they competed harder, and that's unusual for our team. So it's an 82 game season. It happens. It's just no fun when it does happen.
All right. So as you can see from that clip, it's pretty much self-explanatory, right? Doc mentioned a couple times throughout the season how, at times, because he did feel as though the Clippers always had to play perfect, that he needed his guys to always be ready for competition. And not in the sense of like his guys aren't going to come out and they aren't going to play. Obviously, every night you're getting 100% maximum effort from Patrick Beverley and Montrezl Harrell. You know, you got a guy that's a dog in Lou Williams coming off the bench. So that's not the point of the statement. The point of the statement is that a lot of times in those games, because of the fact that the Clippers, you know, wound up becoming a much better team than people thought they were, sometimes they would have some moments where they would get a little bit lax, including in that Bulls game, which I actually attended as a fan and Pavy covered as media, where they blew the Bulls out. But at first, the Bulls are kind of giving them a little bit of run or whatever, and then Doc is going to talk about in his clip about how, you know, he wants his teams to play faster, harder, stronger, right? That's what he wants them to do, play faster, harder, stronger. And he talks about how the Bulls came out initially playing faster, harder, and stronger than the Clippers, and how things changed after that.
We didn't play well in the first half. I thought they played harder. I thought everything they did was faster, harder, tougher. And then in the third quarter, I thought it was all us doing that. And I thought that's where all the frustration came from. But we were terrific.
So as you can see from that clip, you know, for the Clippers, it was never about their talent last year, right? It was never, ever about the talent that was on the team. They, on NBA 2K, had only 2 players with a rating above 80, a rating above 80, I believe. And I believe Lou Will was at 84, and Montrez was at 85, I believe. They never had a star on this team. You had guys, I'm actually going to read a couple people from the roster, right? Last year on the Clippers team, starting from the bottom, including everybody that played at least one game for the LA Clippers, right? You had Angel Delgado, Sedarius Thornwell, Avery Bradley, Wilson Chandler, Milos Teodosic, who is still on the team, or at least was still on the team, and didn't play at all. Who he was supposed to be the fucking European Steve Nash, psych. You had Tyrone Hill, Luke Mbamute, Jerome Robertson, Garrett Temple, Landry Shamet, Patrick Beverley, Marcin Gortat, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, JaMychal Green, Ivica Zubac, Jonathan Motley, and then you get to the, you know, to the better players, which Boban. Then you get to Pat Bev, Lou Will, Montrez, and Danilo. This team was not a loaded team. But the one thing that I bet you didn't know was that this team was a very, very efficient team, and the guys that they had on the team were very efficient. Did you know that last year, Paul George's PER rating was, let me see, it was his PER rating, hold on, I was just looking at it, there it is. It was 23.3. Montrezl Harrell's PER rating last year was 23.4. So before you watch the show, if I would have told you that Montrezl Harrell had a better player efficiency rating than Paul George, a guy who was in top 3 in MVP voting, you would have called me a liar. You would have called me a liar. Lou Will's PER last year, 21.2. Danilo actually had a pretty good and a pretty efficient year. His PER was at 21, which is pretty decent for a secondary guy, even though Danilo, well, actually, you know, I think Danilo and Lou Will were the only 2 people on that Bulls, on that Clippers team last year that had a rating above 80 on 2K last year. That's what I'm talking about. So now you get a guy like Paul George. A guy like Paul George last year who gave you a 23.3 PER rating, who also last year shot 43% from the field, 38% from the 3, gave you 28 points per game, 2.2 steals, leading the NBA. He gave you 8.2 rebounds. He gave you he shot 83% from the free throw line, and this guy was a beast on only 21 shots a game. And I'm sorry, he didn't lead the league in steals. He was actually, that was the highest he's ever averaged in his career in terms of steals, was last year. The Clippers last year were a dog defensively. They were a dog. Would you have guys like Pat Bev crashing the offensive glass, playing tough defense? I didn't even get to Kawhi Leonard, who I'm about to get to in a second. But you combine Paul George and Patrick Beverley on a team defensively. You already have one of the best defensive teams in the league. Then you combine that with a coach like Doc Rivers, who in this clip that I'm about to play is going to talk about Patrick Beverley's ability to offensive rebound and how much he really, really enjoys Pat Bev's ability to be able to crash the offensive glass, and sometimes he just has to let him do his thing. Check out the clip from, you know, Coach Doc Rivers himself.
They're not actually rules, and we don't want our guards, you know, especially our point guards, crashing the offensive glass. But he's great at it. And so our thinking was allow him to do what he does well. Rondo was very similar to that in the After a year of yelling at him not to do it, we realized, wait a minute, he's good at it. So we got to allow him to do it.
You see, you combine that already. Then as I said before, I'm talking to you about last season that we covered, and I'm bringing clips back from last season so that way you can really understand the dynamic at which this Clippers team operated and how they really operated, and also really understand how much of an underdog team this team was, right? Doc Rivers, when I talked to him in the playoffs after Game 4, in which they lost to the Warriors at Staples Center. That was the game I think KD dropped 36 or something like that or whatever. He dropped 30 plus. He was dropping 30 plus all the time, but he dropped like 30 plus. And basically, I asked Doc if he thought that if Danilo and Lou Will weren't able to score, if they would still be able to win and if they would have a chance. So check out this clip from Doc Rivers specifically talking about that dynamic.
Coach of TPJ of HoopsNBrews, Danilo and Lou Will combined for 7 for 30 today from the field. When they shoot that poorly, is there just no way that you guys can get over the hump? Or
well, there's a way, but it's hard. You can still win no matter who does what. I mean, it still was a 4-point, 6-point game. But clearly, if those two guys, and those are our two key offensive guys, struggle, then it's going to be hard, very, very hard for us to win against anyone, let alone Golden State.
You look at a guy like Kawhi Leonard, right? And you look at a guy like LeBron James. LeBron James is a star in Los Angeles. LeBron James is still the biggest star in basketball on the planet, other than Michael Jordan. Then you got Steph Curry right underneath there. But when you're looking at this and you're evaluating this from this perspective, right? Kawhi Leonard last year actually had a higher PER rating than LeBron did. And everyone loves to talk to me about how good LeBron played last year. LeBron was not awful, but he showed signs of decline. The year before, his PER rating was 28.6. Last year, it dropped to 25.6. LeBron last year from the field shot 51% from the field goal range, 33.9% from the three-point line, and he gave you, excuse me, that was per 100%. No, exactly. And he gave you 27.4 points per game in 55 games. And the Lakers didn't make the playoffs. Kawhi in 60 games, Kawhi in 60 games gave you a 26.5 PER rating. Kawhi shot from the field 49.6%, which is less overall from the field, obviously, but Kawhi takes way more shots than, he's much more of a three-point threat than LeBron James is, and it's evident by Kawhi's 37.1% three-point field goal percentage from the three-point line last year. And Kawhi averaged 26.6 points, which is a point less. And Kawhi was also a top-tier, top-5 defender, and his team made the playoffs. We saw what he did in the finals, right? So you add him to what I just talked about with Pat Bev, with Lou Will, with Montrez, with Paul George, and with the guy, Doc Rivers, the coach, who I thought personally from covering the team and also from watching the NBA in general, Doc Rivers deserved to be coach of the year. There is not a doubt in my mind that Doc Rivers was the coach of the year in the NBA last year. Now I give a big kudos to Mike Budenholzer. He reformed their system, gave them an entirely different look. They won a ton of games. But if you give Mike Budenholzer the Clippers are the Lakers last year. A disaster. And that's no disrespect to Coach Bud, but that just shows the level of respect that I have for Doc Rivers and the job that he did with these guys. So I'm gonna end off this, show, just saying that, I told you guys, I think the Clippers are gonna win 60 games. But I think a coach like Doc Rivers, and as you can see through these clips, really cares about his guys and is thinking about his guys. I'm gonna play the opening statement from him after they suffered the blowout loss versus the Warriors in Game 6. And you're going to get to really kind of understand how he felt about this team for this entire year and about this, unit as a whole. But also, he talks about how, that team was more than talent. And when you're more than talent, especially when we know how he's going to speak about it, he said that basically he thought that the Warriors were the perfect matchup for them last year. Now, I disagree. I humbly disagree. Coach, if you're watching this, I humbly disagree. And last year, although you didn't do what I thought you were going to do, I didn't think the Clippers were going to make the playoffs. And if they did, I thought they were going to skate in. But I did think that Doc was going to have a good year, but I didn't think that they would take any games from the Warriors. And to me, those 2 games that they took versus the Warriors last year was more impressive than Doc Rivers' past playoff runs when he had Chris Paul and Blake Griffin, personally to me, even though they made it further. And Coach in this clip is going to talk about how he felt the Warriors were a perfect matchup for him. I personally thought that they would have matched up better against a lot of other teams. I think the only team that they really didn't match up well in the 2018-2019 season, in the postseason really well, would be the Rockets, and that's just because of the offensive dynamo that is James Harden. As good defense as the Clippers play, James Harden's ability to get to the free throw line and create havoc at the free throw line is something that even the Warriors and their dynamic and their shooters couldn't do. And that's something that allows the Rockets to be able to control the pace. And then when Harden goes off, Harden goes off. And also the Rockets played at such a frenetic pace, and it's 3 or bust. The Clippers could easily get down by 20 after a few threes. And they did versus the Warriors a few times. I mean, they got blown out, in multiple games. And they were supposed to get blown out in that game that they won. But they just had the heart of a lion. I'm going to end the show with this. It's your boy TPJ. This is the new show in LA. Make sure you go and you subscribe on YouTube. Hit the like button below. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at New Show in LA. I am here. Clippers fans, you can feel free to send us your hate mail, your love mail. Clippers haters, I don't care. The Clippers are still going to be better than the Lakers. But check out this clip as I leave you guys with this clip from Doc Rivers talking about the Clippers in his opening statement after they suffered the Game 6 blowout loss to the Warriors, in which Kevin Durant dropped 50 points on their head. It's been your boy TPJ, and I'll get with you guys next time. Peace out.
I'll start with a statement. I told our guys I've never been more proud of a team or a group of guys in the 20 years that I've coached. They were really fun. I mean, and as I've said before, I never had a group where you wanted to, in the morning, you race to the car, you race to practice, because you just love being around them, So for me, it was just a pleasure to coach them, and it was also a pleasure to play Golden State. Like, for this group, and especially for the young guys, I don't know if I could have scripted the season before the season, and you told me that, first of all, this group can make the playoffs, which I don't think anyone believed, and we could pick our opponent. As crazy as it sounds, I don't know if we could have picked a better opponent than Golden State, because they're champions. They're extremely well coached. They play the right way. They do so many things that test your mental. And for Shea and Sham and Zub, Trez, just all of them, to go up against that, and every time they made a mistake, like tonight, it felt like we're about to make a run, then we make one defensive lapse, and it's a 3. I think they've learned now that it's more than talent, and that it takes an amazing amount of focus and preparation to be a champion. And so, obviously, hats off to them, but good for us. I couldn't have been more thrilled. It was a pleasure, honestly, for us to play them. It really was.